Britt Eldridge, Monty Harris, Navarre Bartz, and Terry Kent. Turn my video on. The opportunities for the public to access in the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County website, on the Board of Supervisors homepage, and on the Albemarle County calendar. Great, thank you all. And Peggy is not here today. She is on vacation. Okay, so hi everybody. Hope you're staying cool. It is insanely hot. I don't know if folks had a chance to review the minutes or not. Does anybody feel like they need a little bit more time to look at them? I think I sent them out 2 days ago. If we don't need to have a few minutes to review them, I'd like to have a motion to approve the July minutes.
I will make the motion to approve the July minutes. Christine.
Can I hear a second?
I second, if I could find my mouse and cursor.
Thanks, Carrie.
There we go. Made it
All right. Is there anybody who doesn't want to approve the minutes? Let me know. All right, hearing no objections, the July minutes are approved. Great, thanks everybody. So Terry, I'm sure you saw on the old business, you and I still have our action item. One of these days, maybe when I'm not chair, I'll have enough time to do that and follow up with you on that. So Phil, did Melanie send you that contact information for the Atlas EPS recyclers down in Martinsville?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, I got to thinking about that.
Uh-huh.
I haven't called them yet. The logistics of collecting styrofoam.
Yeah.
That sounds, the best way I was able to figure it is going to be very complicated. There's just no good way to handle it. We can get people to put it in a bin, and let's say money were no object, we could even put a compacting bin out there. It doesn't compact particularly well, so you could drive some of the interstitial airspace out, but you would still have this fluff. Every time from then on, though, once you open that container, you'd have snow everywhere. And so we could drive it down to Danville. I think that's where it was.
They offered to pick it up.
Okay.
They'd pick it up, but I got to tell you, I agree with you that, I mean, you can't compact it. It's going to stay.
Where do we do this handoff, swap off thing? So I need to contact them, and I haven't yet.
Okay.
But to see if maybe they've got a clever way around it. But if it's up to us to manage it, I think it's going to be really difficult. And so I'm not, right now, given our facilities being open air the way they are, I wouldn't advise it. Just it would then spend like 3 or 4 people another 3 days vacuuming styrofoam snow up from everywhere. You know?
Well, why don't we just have you call them, Phil, and then find out what they really are proposing? And
I wanted
we'll
to kind
get
of
a little bit of information.
fleshed out a little bit first, though. So yeah, I'll give them a ring.
Yeah, the logistics are no doubt really complicated because that stuff doesn't compact. That's why it doesn't get recycled. Okay.
Just a
Navarre.
quick
Oh.
thought.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's me. So I don't know what their capabilities are down there. I don't think they'd want to do this, but there are ways to dissolve styrofoam into a solvent and reconstitute it after that, but I don't know if they want to mess with that.
They probably wouldn't have the capacity to do that, but there's densification, which is it's a very basic thermal process where you heat it up and it comes out in sort of like blobs that are very, it takes the air out of it, but you need to have somebody who's going to operate that equipment and run it, run all that EPS through it. that is a very efficient way to do it, but you have to have both the volume and the right end market to take that. So Dart,
Yeah.
who's a big polystyrene producer, they do that, they fund that. They'll take it that way, but I don't know if this company would, it might not be in the foam, in the form that would be helpful to them.
Yeah, the thermal process sounds a lot safer than the other ways I know to do it. So like using acetone or gasoline. So
Actually, there are some natural solvents that work too. There are some companies that offer units that actually, there's a company out of Quebec that has a pretty neat process where they loan you this unit and it does exactly what you desire. It's a Savolysis process and it makes a liquid out of it and you send it to them and then they just make new polystyrene out of it. But Quebec is a long ways away from Central Virginia.
a little bit.
So Navarre, Peggy's not here. I think she might have written an update, but a little action item for you guys was working with EJ to update the quick reference guide. Any progress?
Yeah,
on
so Peggy got me the updated list of things and I've been working on the, we have the old document that it was all in. So I'm working on updating that right now. There's a lot of little fiddly bits here and there. So
Okay.
it's taking longer than I thought it would, but other than that, it's in process. So hopefully that'll be done soon and we can send a copy out to everybody to proofread before we put it up.
Awesome. Okay, Monty, you were gonna do some research on whether there are any requirements to use plastic bags for products. Did you have a chance to do any of that?
I have not gotten it officially from ABC, but I've Googled around several times to say there is no such requirement. But truth is, I've not done the best answer. Let me get it from the horse's mouth so I can quote some ABC official, and I will do that.
Okay, sure. Thank you for that. So I'll just put in process on that, Monty. Thank you for doing that. I also want to hi, David. I see your name up there. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to meet you as well.
All right. So EJ, is Lance going to join us or are you going to do the report out today for the county?
Lance is on vacation this week, so I'm reporting out for the county this week.
All
this month.
right. So how about I turn it over to you?
Sure. So the GBB and HOLA requirements update. Right now, we are reviewing the final draft of the GBB study, including the HOLA requirements. Next step for us is to take a look at the HOLA requirements that SWAC put together and those that are recommended by the case studies in GBB and look at it honestly from a practical standpoint, a step-by-step. And so working with legal to find out what we can do as an entity and then what the process would look like. First, starting with the requirements and then process it out and then work to create code out of that. It's a little bit of a lengthy process, but it is the elephant that we're eating one bite at a time, as it were. So that's where we stand with that. Anne, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, can you share the GBB case studies that they put together with us? I know Lance had talked about those, but I'd love to take a gander at
Yes, as soon as that study is finalized, we absolutely will be giving it over to SWAC and doing a slightly more formal presentation so you'll understand what our next steps are.
Okay, that sounds terrific. Thanks.
Supervisor Palmer, your hand is up.
Yes. Has the city completed their solid waste plan that GBB was doing?
No, ma'am, but they are on track. They're probably about a month, maybe 8 weeks behind us as far as their completion. So we're moving ahead, they're moving ahead, and I think we'll probably be pretty much on track with each other as far as linking up for logistics and collaboration about the same time, but right now they're about a month behind us.
Okay, and I think it would be great for the committee to get a link to that finished product when it's done, so we can go through the cities and see what they did.
Absolutely. And of course, I'll keep you updated as far as the collaborations, as far as that partnership is concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Other questions about the GBB hauler requirements? All right, seeing no hands. I will go on to the next thing, the SWAC report to the board. That is due the first week of September. I know there was a draft done and then looked at by the group. And I don't know how you want to go about formalizing that draft. But as soon as you're ready to do that, then you can just send it to me and I'll send it to the clerk.
Sure. I think that Christine and I'm so sorry, Christine had done this excellent job of trying to draft something for me to review. We've now consolidated both of our input and some of Peggy's input into it. Jesse, it needs to have a review by you.
Got it.
I think we'll be able to send that out at the end of the meeting. And so if you can just look through it, see if there's anything that you think needs to be revised or added, I think it'll be basically done. We sent you, I sent out a draft. Christine has integrated what I did with what she did. So all it is a longer version now with more, information around what we've accomplished over the last year. So I think the format is pretty nice. EJ, I thought it was helpful. Thank goodness we take really good minutes. So that whole attendance thing was easy to accomplish. The subcommittee thing threw me for a loop, trying to do attendance on subcommittee. So I will just say that the new report format requires us to also talk about how many subcommittee meetings we have that we hold. So that's where, Jesse, I think you'll have to look at it. You actually look like you did a lot of meetings.
Oh, look.
Christine and I were, I had no idea how many meetings we had. I thought it was pretty brief. And then I think that the Planning and Vision Committee had very, very few. So Navarre, Peggy took a peek at that. I think she updated that.
Well, actually, I don't think Peggy did look at the document itself, so it might be good for Navarre to look at it. She
Okay.
sent me an email with just some notes and I tried to incorporate them into the document, but it would be useful if you did have any meetings to go ahead and list that. And I tried to list all the ones that the outreach committee had. And I don't know if I think there are some missing still, Anne, because, but at any rate, because we met quite often, quite regularly. But that is true that we have to list all this. And I just, to get clarification, was there a vote on those subcommittees? Are they officially subcommittees or can they be called just work groups? Because I thought, Liz, you said that there was no official vote. So in the document, I just called them work groups.
That's right. That's why I had my hand raised. I just want to remind everybody that Peggy went through the minutes and found that we never officially voted to form subcommittees. And that's one of the reasons why two people can meet in a subcommittee and still have it be legal without, taking minutes and all that. As soon as you get up to 3, you automatically, cross that bridge. But as long as we don't officially vote to make them subcommittees, I am told by Greg Kampner that we're free and clear. So, we want to tell the board what you've been doing for sure, but there is a technicality to allow you to be a little more lax if you don't have all the notes and don't have all the information and you don't want to spend a huge amount of time trying to collect all that. You'd rather be doing the work of the committee. And I would advise going forward never to vote on any subcommittees.
Yeah. Okay,
Anyway, thanks.
that's a good advice, Liz. So thank you, Christine, for following that thread there. All right, EJ, how about, it sounds like we should be able, in a week, get you the final report. That's what I would, if Navar and Jesse can look at it the next week, we'll get their changes and then can forward it on to you. So I think we will easily make the September deadline.
That's what it sounds like to me. You guys have done some really great work on the information gathering, especially since it's the first year that I think that you'll have had to, any of the commissions or committees have had to use this particular format. So,
Mhm.
so well done on hunting and gathering the information. The last is the report out on Love Albemarle, the litter cleanup. So we originally had the idea of doing a litter pollution under Keep Albemarle Beautiful. And then there was a group that has grown up in Crozet that has taken the Keep Albemarle Beautiful for an anti-B&B campaign, an anti-rural event campaign. And so in discussing with our communications office, we decided not to worry about that as a situation. And we consulted with Tracy Leverty, and she had let us know that they were starting within Keep Virginia Beautiful, a Love Virginia campaign, which is also a litter campaign. So we switched over to a Love Albemarle campaign as our labeling. What does anti-B&B mean?
Oh, it's B.
B&B, Airbnbs. So it's homestays. Homestays is what we call it within the county if you're looking for those parts of our Board of Supervisor meetings, but everybody else knows them as Airbnbs.
Got it. Okay.
And so there's a group in Crozet that have taken that as their own. So we didn't want to be in conflict with that. So our group is still together. It's as I said, I think last month and the month before, it is a cross-departmental group, community development, schools, parks and rec, facilities and environmental services, and of course, our communications and our equity and inclusion office. And together, we're putting together this pilot program for the year. And we are tentatively focused on 4 events, 1 in each quadrant of the county for the fall. And each quadrant will focus on a different type of litter that we have to combat here in the county. So roadway litter, furniture and appliance litter, which I don't know if it gets over 10 pounds. I wonder, can we still call it litter, but it's still litter. And then trails, waterways, and stormwater, items that impede our stormwater management process. So those are the 4 genres of litter that we'll be addressing. We'll do it in one of each of the 4 quadrants, and then we'll build an educational campaign to carry us from the events in October through the winter into a springtime event, which will be one large event that we're hoping will be a city-county collaborative event.
Oh,
So
nice.
something that works on both a city and county interest property. So I keep telling my team, to some extent, we're throwing spaghetti on the wall. When you have a pilot program, you want to get a lot of stuff out there and see what has legs within the community. We're working to partner up with RCA for one of our events. We're also collaborating with the schools to support some of their student cleanup events that happen before games and before big events. So we're seeing how we can support them. They're also seeing how they can come out and support some of our larger local government events. And again, we'll get to the springtime with the final sort of large hit event, and then we'll evaluate the program overall, see if there's any money that we need to ask the county for as far as continuing the program, or if it's something that can just continue through partnerships. And again, to see what worked well for communications, for education, for logistics on event planning, and then what didn't work, and look to improve that for the next year. So that's where we stand right now. Questions? Oh, a big thumbs up from Terry.
I was gonna say, I think it sounds terrific, EJ. Just really pleased to see a program developing around this. You're gonna give regular updates on it, won't you? So we'll know how to sign up or participate or whatever as we go along.
Absolutely. Our communications team is meeting next week to see sort of a skeleton branding that can go out. We need to firm up 2 of our sites and partnerships, and then we'll start pushing out the messaging about 30 days before, and then signage will go up a week before around that area. So if that happens to be a trail that you like to walk, you'll know that a cleanup event is happening at the end of the week. That's that sort of thing. But absolutely, and even if it's in between SWAC meetings, I'll absolutely send out at least an email update so that y'all are aware of what's going on, even if it hits in between the meetings. Supervisor Palmer, your hand is up.
I think I sort of zoned out for a minute. So all the parks, are we doing all the parks on these trails or what?
No, ma'am. We will investigate. So some of it is trails, some of it is roadside. It just depends on what litter genre we're addressing for that quadrant event. So if we do Milton Boat Landing, that would be the nexus, and then we would trail up and down from there. If it's roadside in Esmont and Keene, then Ed Brooks would scout ahead of time to figure out which sections of road we should be looking at for the pickup, and also that we can safely look at and work on for the pickup. With the Rio Mills, there's a section up from the reservoir that is particularly heavy with large appliances and furniture and tires. That tends to be the genre of litter that we get there. And so we'll work from a nexus and work out. Does that answer your question?
It does. I was just going to throw Dickerson Road out for you. And I bet you could get lots of people to go to Sugar Hollow. Lots of candy wrappers and kitty stuff over there.
Absolutely. There's Sugar Hollow is on the list actually for the cooperative event in the spring, since Sugar Hollow is owned by the city and surrounded by county land. So we thought it would be something to certainly approach the city as far as a collaborative event.
Okay, thank
you. So I think we should also be free to use the word dumping, because fridges and things, it's not like that blows out of the back of your truck. There's some intentionality to placing a large appliance somewhere. So that sounds great. Thanks for that, EJ, and look forward to the follow-ups on that. So I'm going to turn it over to planning and vision. And Navar, I have to ask you a question. I had this statement in there, we need to find a new chairperson since Teddy resigned. Are you the new chairperson? Because I don't know if I had documented that properly.
I hope not.
Okay, do you want to be the new chairperson?
Not really, but I can talk it over with Peggy, but my time is kind of weird right now.
Okay.
With the baby, so.
Okay. So we're still chairless on I will stop using subcommittee, I'll use work group on our planning and vision work group. Do you have anything to report out for us?
I don't think, other than that we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on the update for the recycling weird stuff.
Okay.
document.
I know Peggy sent out an email, and off the top of my head, I don't remember what was in it. I will say there are a number of communities that are adopting the bag ban, that are adopting bag bans based on the enabling legislation. And or the bag tax, I guess I should mention. Other than that, I don't know what else is going on.
Let me see if I can find the email she sent.
Could I just add something
Sure.
to this? Just speaking of the bag tax, I think Navarre, you were there as well, but we went to the Climate Right meeting, and where we were able to hear some information, Bright Climate, excuse me, where the UVA students gave just a really great presentation of some of the work that they had been doing to raise awareness about climate change, and just the group. Unfortunately, the class is doesn't sound like it's going to happen. The funding is no longer there, but there were several people from the Sierra Club, and they are really interested in moving forward. And right, Navarro, I think we had.
Yeah, it
One of
sounded
the
like
things they
Sierra
talked about
Club's
was-
gonna try to herd the cats anyway, and wanted us to be us and UVA, and I think there were some other groups involved too, but I think those were the big three.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
so
it sounded like the guy from Sierra Club wasn't going to be available until later this month, if I remember right, and he was going to try to get something together at that point, if I remember right.
Yeah, that is correct. And one of the things that they, and Liz, you were there as well. And so looking for this possibility of putting together the FAQs to counter arguments against the tax. So I think that was one of the things that we talked about trying to come up with.
Right. They talked about how to influence the Board of Supervisors to make this decision. And I suggested that they think about the things that were going to, the people who were going to come out and say that it was bad for whatever reason, and get a list of that and get some words for the board to say against it. Because I think the majority, just off the top of my head, I believe that the majority of the board is likely to go along with it. I can't swear that, but just knowing who's on the board, where we get into trouble is when things get confusing and there's good arguments against it, and it's good to have something to say against that. And I did check after that meeting with the county executive and asked when our staff was going to present the specifics of what we would have to do the bag tax, and didn't get an exact date, but I'm assuming that it's probably going to be in the fall. And before I put my hand down, when we were finished talking about this, Navarre reminded me of a question I had, so it's on another subject.
While we're on this topic, I think it was Pat Colbert who suggested at that meeting a renaming of this and call it the reusable bag incentive. And I don't know if that's possible, but I think that there's a lot in a name. And I don't know how to push something like that, because as soon as somebody hears tax or fee, I feel like people recoil. But I think if you were to use reusable bag incentive, it really just the name helps people to understand why this is happening. And I was just in Portland, Maine, and they have just implemented in July plastic bag ban. I just saw people in the grocery store bringing their reusable bags. It seemed like it was working.
I think the other thing is you have to be really clear on what the tax is used for, because frankly, that's usually one of the biggest concerns is, does the tax get swept up into a general fund and used for, police and emergency services, or is it actually used, for solid waste and recycling? issues.
It has a very definite, in the legislation that was passed, it's required it to be used for, I can't remember right off, somebody probably else knows, litter cleanup or money to go to litter cleanup or something like that.
Mhm. That's
And-
good.
But we put it in the general fund and use it for anything, it has to be associated with that. Could I just throw out a question for next time Navarre kind of reminded me of? When you are doing this, I think this is a question for everybody. Navarre, you're redoing this PDF. And when I went to the website, looking over the website earlier today, I noticed it was in a PDF, which is kind of fine right now, because when you go there, you want it to be directed to Ravenna first, because that's where most of the recycling is. But Navarre, you said that this was about where to recycle weird stuff. And rather than just putting into a search engine, recycling in Albemarle, they might put in recycling something strange. And so I'm wondering if that should be a searchable document, given that it's a PDF now. And so that's something for, a recommendation from the committee, if you guys think it should be directly searchable, or if you think the setup we have now works best.
Yeah, I think Peggy had talked, she was talking with her husband, and I think long-term we'll probably want to mainline it more into the main part of the website. This is kind of a kludgy solution. In theory, if the PDF renders properly, it should be searchable, at least from Google.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sometimes I haven't looked at the version we have, and I'll have to check it after I get this one converted. But sometimes PDFs dump the actual text from the
Want me
file
to
and just
stack it, or you got it?
Sure.
Here you go.
Margaret, you're coming through. I think you need to mute yourself. I'm sorry, so you're going to check on that. Thanks, Navarre.
Yeah,
All right.
so I think long term it'd be better to have it on the website though. But for right now, we can update this in the short term and move that way in the future.
All right, so we'll take that as just an action item that we'll track. I have a question for you, Jesse. This isn't really our planning and vision, but I'm wondering, I'd be interested in your point of view on how this is working. Since you had to do the EO 77 compliance at UVA, I've noticed places, even though it doesn't apply to non-state organizations, I've noticed people have shifted out of plastic water bottles into aluminum bottles, which is a horrible climate shift. And aluminum bottles are a different alloy, so they're actually not compatible with soda cans. And they can be a reason for bales of UVCs to be rejected by reclaimers. So I'm wondering if you have run into any sort of environmentally sort of counterproductive results of EO 77.
Sort of. We've requested exemptions around a lot of the plastic water bottle stuff in spaces we control because they're getting recycled anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into whether or not the water that remains is canned or bottled. Because memory escapes me, but it's not going to be as clean a break as we hoped. A lot of materials are stockpiled. It's going to take time for things to come out, but there is no better way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no.
like, my hope to see a fully compostable football won't happen this season because of the amount of materials that remain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be more like next season, because passing those materials to somebody else just encourages them to be in the landfill without being used.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think it'd be really interesting just to have you kind of report out on the progress of this. Because I'm cringing at some of the things I'm hearing. All right. Anything else on planning and vision? Navar, do you think you guys will have a chance to meet this week, this month?
Hopefully, I'll circle around with Peggy and see if we can have a meeting.
Okay.
'Cause I think
Right.
it's just the two of us at this point. So.
All right. Jesse, how about we transition over to the operations work group?
Sure. We had what seemed to be a productive meeting at Cardinal Hall, which I enjoyed seeing everybody. I look forward to doing things like that again in the future. Which brings me to my question. Can we meet in person this month, or do we want to meet virtually, which means we can't meet? Thoughts, team?
Can
Jessica, I
I,
know I'm not a voting member or anything, but I'm just not comfortable meeting in person, to be honest with you.
I understand. That's why I poll. So with that, go on.
I did talk to the county executive about the official stance for committees, and I have not gotten a specific answer yet. I know that the Board of Supervisors is not, we've extended it until at least October right now. So the
Yeah.
board is going to continue to be by.
And so I'd like to be respectful
So I'll
of that.
follow up. If I can get that. Yeah.
Okay, well,
I'll
please
follow
let me
up
know.
and see what the county. Yes, I will.
Thank you, Liz. So that said, we had a great meeting. It was nice to see everybody. I look forward to doing that again someday. We talked about glass. We talked about how the entire success of our program hinges on strategic materials, continuing to pick things up from Ivy. I believe Phil and Monty were going to talk with some folks about alternative vendors in the event that that number goes below 0, meaning strategic materials does not accept material and transportation for free, or pays, Phil.
Yeah, can I make a recommendation that the committee writes a formal letter talking about this sort of anti-competitive position we're in with strategic materials? You know, there's this where we like to recover glass, we'd like to supply the glass furnaces in our state, but we have this certain circumstance.
I think, sorry.
I was going to say, because I think, and then send that to the Glass Packaging Institute, of whom SMI is a member, as well as all the major glass producers are members. And I think it's really important to document that, because this is not just an Albemarle County problem. This is actually a national issue, that we don't have competitors in this space. And it really disadvantages people who want to do things like we want to do.
Sure, but I wouldn't say I'm there. I would say Strategic Materials has been a pretty good partner in that they've been willing to take the material and pay for it. It just so that they've dropped the price from $20 a ton to $5 a ton puts us in an awkward position of being uncertain that we can offer services to others. If they went back to $20 a ton, we'd feel great. At $5 a ton, we can do this indefinitely, Phil. And at $0 a ton, things get awkward fast. So I wouldn't say the monopoly has put us in an impossible situation. The partner we're dancing with is still dancing.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a big conversation in lots of communities right now. And I mean, frankly, that's why you're seeing a huge surge in legislation. Because
canned beer.
Yeah, what is the funding mechanism for these sorts of things? So EJ, is your hand up?
It is, thank you. This is the first time I've heard the committee talk about writing a letter from the committee to an entity or a group. And I was going to ask Supervisors Palmer and Price if that is something that actually the SWAC should send to the supervisors to send, or the SWAC, is SWAC able to speak for the county without it going through the supervisors?
I'm not, I think it actually would be more powerful if it came from the Board of Supervisors. And so from that standpoint, I think it's worth asking the board. It's probably it's probably appropriate, and I'm sure Donna would probably say the same thing, to at least have the Board of Supervisors okay it first. And that's the safest way to go about it, which would require an explanation to the Board of Supervisors, because clearly they have no idea what's going on other than Donna and myself.
All right, that's great guidance. So if it gets to that point, when the dance partner starts dancing in Jesse's,
It's not to say I don't have my eye out for other dance partners.
yeah, I think that's it.
Not who brought you, till you leave with. Hey, to that point, I was going to follow up with Owens, Illinois, per Phil's request. I mean, it's like trying to get the president of the United States on the phone. It's literally a joke, and I deal with businesses all the time. That you push for customer service, it hangs you up a number of times. I finally got it to ring. It rang and rang and rang and rang, put me on hold forever, and I finally left a message. And we've got approximately 800 tons. We're trying to talk to somebody else. I sent an email to a couple of their operations people and followed up with voicemails. I got this little tool that gives me people's direct dial, radio silence. So I'm not giving up. I'm going to get an answer. But is there anybody else we should be talking to that just Ann or somebody else knows that, could be another good plan B?
I would say, you should write to Scott DeFife at GPI and tell him, we have a lot of interest in trying to do this, but, we cannot get to the right people. I think he talks to the key people every day, so he can make that connection happen. So I would say, Jesse has Scott's email. I can send it to you if you need it. You can say, and recommend, we've been trying to connect with OI.
I'm happy to do that.
But wondering if you could help facilitate an introduction for us. And he wants this to happen, so he would have an incentive to do this.
Okay. Yeah. If somebody will do that, I'm happy to coordinate with Scott.
You're not the first person who's actually commented on that. So
I mean, I'm not kidding. It's like a joke. I've done it multiple days.
Yeah. No, make sure you tell Scott that.
So
okay.
Sorry, Ann, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead, Jesse.
In our meeting, we also talked a little bit about what to do with something like Nelson County, how to get them on board, sort of have the same linchpin. We were going to speak with Green Corner Consulting. Monty, I found out that Kendall Hanks has graduated, we believe. And so I'm looking for her replacement in Green Corner Consulting. And as soon as I have that, we'll all connect. And I've been thinking a lot about a question Monty asked, which is, where's the best place that we can put our sort of bang for our buck? Now, I don't have the answer to that, but for me, it has to do with yard waste. Yard waste is something that just breaks my heart when I see it go to a landfill, because we can do so much better. Now, I don't have a solution. I don't have a project. I don't have anything. But when we ask where's sort of the thing that I think we could tackle next, for me, I'm interested in yard waste.
I'm surprised there's still a lot of yard waste going to landfill. That's kind of usually organic one that we divert. So,
well,
yeah.
if there was an alternative curbside collection, right? Something I've talked about with people in Charlottesville, but not Albemarle. I think you would capture a lot of material at very low cost to the municipality and having great effect.
So Lance is working with the city on what was a pilot. I can't remember where it is right now, on the yard waste issue for the urban area. And
Great.
So we should get that information from him. And Phil has talked about this, about how a lot of the yard waste comes in, to the transfer station mixed with other garbage and whatnot.
Right.
And I guess he can.
So Jesse, just out of curiosity, would you imagine this would be something where we would work with Panorama Farms or Black Bear or somebody? I mean, Panorama seems.
Or even Phil, right? I mean, there's tons of things
Uh-huh.
we can do with yard waste that aren't as complicated as food scraps. I
Right.
know curbside food scraps feels great, and big bins can take yard waste too. But I look around my neighborhood and I see no yard scraps, even though we don't have backyards. So that tells me they're going into the landfill. And when
Oh.
I call and I get my $60 pickup from Time or whatever, Phil's absolutely right. I'm going to throw a couch in there because I just paid for that. Now you take that, I just paid for that problem away, and I think you have a very, very interesting program. And so I would like to learn more about what Lance has been talking about. It's something I've talked with the city about. And when I think about Monty's question of where could we really sort of move needles and get the most bang for our time, that's the one that resonates with me.
Well, it's not just, it's also a really smart climate strategy. So let's definitely make that an action item to carry forward, to report out and follow through on. I think that's an awesome recommendation, Jesse.
I apologize. I stepped away for a few minutes. And so if you've already discussed this, my apologies again, but yard waste is much more complicated than most of the other recycling because, if it's grass, it's messy. If it's leaves and branches. And so whereas you can easily collect your board and your cans, your glass, plastic, put them in the back of your car, people are much more reluctant to take something that's going to get messy and spread in their vehicle. So I think the collection aspect of it becomes more complicated unless, I've got a truck, I can throw it in the back of my truck. Not everyone does. So again, I apologize if y'all have already addressed that part of it.
Well, the conversation.
I was just going to throw in that Lance was talking about leaf collection predominantly. So.
Yep, and that would be great. And I'm thinking, again, the conversations I've had with Charlottesville are in a curbside way. I don't know that that's going to work all over Albemarle County, but I think that would be a fantastic way to move the climate and other needles.
Yeah, I think focusing on the high density developments, to your point, that's where it's really needed, where people can't backyard compost easily or do anything. And it would have to be a curbside collection.
Agreed.
Christine is raising her hand.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention that we did have that message about letting your leaves be. And I think more education about that, because I know that's something that the master gardeners and master naturalists really are trying to help people understand the value of incorporating those leaves back into your garden, mulching them in place. So there's some really important messages in terms of, so that they don't have to be transported to the landfill.
Yep.
Even with a leaf pickup, there are probably better ways. If you can compost it or mulch it back into your lawn, that's the better scenario.
Agreed. And we'll have a talk with my neighbors so they'll understand.
All right, good. That's great. Anything else, Jesse, on operations?
Just anything Charisse would like to add about the solid waste planning unit updates?
I don't really have an update. We haven't met yet. We're gonna have to meet soon. I've been sort of out of commission, sick. So I'm hoping to get this going next week or the week after. I did contact the counterparts for the Piedmont, I forgot the exact name, but for the Piedmont composting, I forgot their exact name. I'm sorry.
Piedmont Master Gardeners.
Thank you so much. They have counterparts in Green and Louisa, I believe, or Green and Fluvanna. I did contact them to see if they can help us out in our endeavors, but I have not heard back. So I'm going to reach back out to them, but I am right now working on getting the correct data in the plan so that that can be updated.
Great.
That's all I
And then
have.
I would also mention Terry and I had a great conversation about how the various groups that she's involved in could also be involved.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
that's
Better
great.
World Betty, C3. I don't mean to speak for you, Terry, but I think it'd be cool.
Okay, so basically, Terry, if you don't mind, when I set up this next meeting, the plan's due in October, in mid-October. So I'm gonna have a meeting either late August, early September, but I'm going to send out, obviously, a poll. If I invite you and if you can make it, that'd be great.
Great.
Sure, thanks.
Sharice, I have a question for you. I just wanted your input on this, if this is something that it would be helpful to do in your point of view or not. So I am chairing this Plastic Waste Pollution Advisory Council for the state. And there's a lot of focus on how large cities operate and do recycling. And I've really emphasized that there needs to be kind of a counterbalance with how more rural areas or smaller cities operate, and the role of, basically planning districts in some of the solid waste planning. I have suggested that we perhaps do a survey or just do some outreach to some specific individuals who are in this position trying to coordinate and move these things forward, because obviously it's very different than a large city that has a dedicated solid waste staff and doing all that. And so what is your thinking? Is that an exercise you think would be helpful?
Since I came on board almost 2 years now, I've been trying to engage the smaller communities and get some sort of ongoing, at least quarterly regional, even for the rural areas not in our solid waste planning unit. So I do think it would be very useful to get something like that going. And I thought we had a very successful meeting right before the pandemic, but it was just hard to reorganize people once the pandemic hit for that second meeting. So yes, that's on my radar, and I agree that that would be very useful.
I think the other role is, so, data is a big issue on this committee, and nobody understands how it is or is not collected. So that is another area that I would, appreciate the point of view from someone like yourself, who is in that coordinating position to collect the data and report it to the state. Because I think everybody thinks, oh, of course it's reported. And I'm like, well, maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, I've said it before, since I have no backing other than asking, and if someone doesn't want to give it to me, they can give me any number they want. I can't go and verify it. There's no checks and balances. It's not very good. But this is, DEQ knows this. So, hands are a bit tied in that regard, because
That's great. Well, I wanted to give you a heads up that I might share your name and contact information, because I'm asking DEQ to do some targeted outreach to maybe 8 to 10 planning districts to get feedback on these specific issues. So I wanted to first see if you thought it was a terrible idea, but
no, it's fine.
If you don't, I may throw your name in the hat there. So thank you for that.
No problems.
Okay, so with that, Jesse, if you don't have anything else, we can turn it over to Christine.
Yep.
Great, thanks. Christine, you want to do your report out?
Yeah, we did meet briefly at Cardinal Hall, and what did we talk? We talked a little bit about the recycling ambassadors. It's been Maria is going back to Columbia, and it's been so hot, and of course I've been gone, so Betsy has just been there all the time, and she's actually been going on some different days. So hopefully as things cool off, we can work to create more, recruit more volunteers. So that's the update on that. And we also talked a little bit more about how to get, sorry about my phone. Let me just stop that. So sorry, just how to, Monty's been keeping that conversation going with Lindsay about composting in the schools. And so I think that one of the things that's, of course, it's just so challenging to be able to meet with the meeting restrictions. So I'm going to be volunteering with C3, and so will Monty, and we're going to just try to do as private citizens and volunteers for C3 a little bit more, having more conversations. And I don't know what else to say. It's just so challenging to try to push forward on all of this. And it's important work that I think needs to be done. I mean, it would be really great to get some composting in the schools. And of course, everything is up in the air with COVID. So, but thank you, Monty. Monty's been keeping the conversation going and keeping us on it and continuing pushing to make sure that we follow up with these conversations.
Yeah, I think we'll have good news.
Oh,
We just
sorry.
got to keep trying.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. It does go into our Green Schools Network, under that purview. So C3 does have a collection of teachers, or not necessarily students come to this meeting, but teachers and administrators and parents, PTO parents, that we try to meet at least 5 times before the end of the year. And it's been going now, this is the 3rd year. So composting is definitely on their radar. And I think it fits well in that respect. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. And we are also, C3 is partnering with K-Tech right now. I'm not in a formal sense yet, but what we can do with K-Tech on various sustainability initiatives, including their interest in composting. But I know, Christine, it's like also cultivate and like the gardeners.
Master gardeners, yeah. So we're going to just try to move forward as private citizens and not representing SWAC at this point.
Well, Christine, I think the committee will look forward to your, the recommendations you and Monty and Terry bring forward as private citizens to the committee.
And it also just I just want to come back to, as I realized with COVID, that this is really going to be a long haul in terms of meeting. And I feel like there is a way that we can have a secure meeting over Zoom, a Zoom meeting, perhaps that we ask if people want to participate, that they register ahead of time. And because I'm on the NHC and I was told that we cannot meet in person. And so we cannot meet at all now, any of those working groups. And so it just is really difficult to move forward on doing any of this. So I would hope that this will continue to pursue opportunities, ways for, these working groups to be able to meet somehow.
Yeah, I know it's been really frustrating and figuring out. I mean, if people register, or if you know who's going to register, you can do a password protected Zoom and secure it that way. We do that all the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we can't do that. And so if somebody wants to participate, they can. They just need to register. I mean, I do that all the time when I do a Zoom meeting. You simply register, and that way you've got a layer of protection.
Right.
But it's certainly open to the public. Anybody can participate that way.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Do you have anything else? I have schools and litter, anything, or is that Are you coordinating on some of that outreach
Well,
with?
I wasn't
FES?
able to join EJ. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting for Love Albemarle, but I hope that I can be part of that and that SWAC, can participate in the future. So EJ, put me on the list. I'd love to join if you think that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Your talk on different plastics was actually one of the biggest hits of the Dardentown cleanup. So absolutely, we definitely want SWAC represented.
Yeah, and so it makes sense not to try to create another event, but to just put our energies into this Love Albemarle, I think. And we do
Absolutely.
Betsy and I have a long list of contacts, like Ruritan groups that we contacted and various civic organizations that we were able to contact directly.
That'll be wonderful. As soon as CAPE or Communications has the communications packet to send out, then I'll be sending that actually out to SWAC for you to send out to your different partner groups to get the word out. That's one of the big the big opportunities and hurdles and challenges of all of these events is build towards the event. So the more partners we have, the more avenues of communication, the higher the turnout, and that's what we're looking for. So thank you for being willing to do that. Terry, your hand is raised.
Yeah, so one other thing that I wanted to mention for your committee is that what I'm hearing, so I recently gave a talk to Carsbrook Homeowners Association about conscious consuming. So it covered a little bit of recycling, but it was more this global issue. And a question that I got from that group and also another interested person in having me come out to our HOA is specific, like what specific haulers are doing with their stuff. So there's still a lot of skepticism of, or somebody can't get through to the haulers or they won't give them a straight answer. And we actually, I was going to put this in the chat at C3, like 2 years ago, no, now 3 years ago, we wrote a blog trying to, just at least connect people with all the different haulers. But now it's out of date, of course, because, these things get out of date. So I wonder if, number one, what anybody's thoughts are on that. It's so hard to get a handle on getting this specific because it seems like it's changing. But at the very least, we're thinking about updating this blog to at least have current information, and it would be really great to have the outreach committee's help and deploy that as well.
Phil actually developed a really nice infographic that shows where our recyclables go. At least for drop off. For there, you can get an answer for what happens in curbside collection. The haulers aren't going to know because they don't operate the MRF. You really need to talk to the MRF operator. And so we actually did a tour of the MRF. Gosh, I think it must be going on 2 years now. And we have answers for what happens to the things that go to Shoesmith. And so that's not hard to put together. And we documented that. So it's going to be the folks operating that who will answer it. And they're very straightforward about it. Although, they know what they recycle. What they couldn't answer for some materials is they broker. They don't do direct sales other than maybe cans and bottles. So their paper, they couldn't tell us because their paper was going through a broker. So that's, we can get answers to that. We do know from looking at the collection list of what county waste puts out there, they don't recycle everything that's on that list. And glass would be one of those things. You collect glass, but the glass is at, daily landfill cover at the Shoesmith landfill. So there are some of those things that I think are important for people to understand what does and does not happen. So yeah, I think that's a great thing for us to update and let people know about. So Terry, about haulers that use Shoesmith, I think, you know, it's county waste time, which is now part of GFL bought time, they bought county waste. So I think all of those are going to Shoesmith. I had an outreach question. Totally. Can't remember it now. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. So we're having a first in-person meeting for the Plastic Waste Pollution Advisory Committee on Tuesday, August 24th. There's going to be some pretty interesting presentations on how solid waste and recycling works across the state of Virginia. Sharice, there's going to be a specific piece on what reporting requirements are, how they're enforced, how good is the data. And there's also going to be litter specialists presenting on litter in the state. This woman from Longwood College will be presenting on that. So for those of you who are interested, you might want to tune in to some of those presentations. I think the whole meeting is public. It's a whole day, but at the end, then it's open for, you know, public comment. So I just wanted, in case some of you are interested in that, I think it'll be a pretty informative meeting. There'll be a lot of discussion as well, but the presentations could be of interest.
Can you put a link to that in here?
I don't know how to do it. I don't control the meeting, Monty.
I just mean to like even or I can Google, what's the name of it again?
The Plastic Waste Pollution Advisory Council. So I can write to DEQ is running this thing. So I can ask them to send the public link to me and then share that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hopefully they record it. I'd love to look at it, but I can't take all day.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not, I don't know that they recorded. I think either when they were doing Zoom, they were recording them, and now the state has decided that they're going to do in person. So it's kind of an either or, which is challenging. All right, so I forgot to ask you this, Jesse, do you have a date and time for your next meeting, or are you just gonna play that by ear?
I'm gonna wait to hear back from, I'm sorry, was it Liz or EJ that was talking to the county? Somebody to tell me whether or not I can have a legitimate meeting of any type.
I'm gonna check one more time. I've been kind of pushing that. I think it's liable to be no, but I really haven't gotten a specific answer. And I jotted down registered participants for Zoom also, which Christine was talking about. So I'm going to have another conversation with them because it's just ridiculous. We can't get anything done. There has to be a way around this stuff. And Jesse, I can't imagine if we don't, you know, if it's outside, I don't get it. But anyway, I'll check in, let you know.
Let me know, and that will of course impact our ability to work if we can or cannot have meetings.
And whatever you find out, Liz, can you share it with the whole committee?
Yes.
So Christine, based on what I heard, you are not holding a work group meeting this month.
I can't unless something changes.
Okay. Yep. I just wanted to get that on the record. So make sure you jot that down. Okay. So let's move to new business. So EJ, did we have any new people apply for SWAC membership?
I believe that you had someone who did apply, and they had some trouble with their application. I contacted the clerk because remember, the SWAC is a Board of Supervisors committee. Therefore, all the membership is actually handled through the clerk's office. And Claudette wrote back, and I believe I forwarded to you, and the fact that the person in particular whom you had named had not finished all of her application.
Yeah,
so
she
that
had
was
a
what was
problem
holding it
with the system, just kept booting her out. So I had asked if there was a way to apply with a paper application rather than an electronic application. I
And
can
that would be something that I think as the chair, that if you sent an email to the clerk at albemarle.org with that specific request, and you can certainly CC me if you like, but it is, there are a lot of people that behind the scenes that help these committees stay up and running, and we try not to step on each other's areas of responsibility too hard.
Okay, all right, I will do that. Oh, I'm really bummed about that. Okay, and then wasn't there another person who was going to apply? Was it Melanie or somebody else who was thinking about it?
No, I don't know if Melanie actually ever committed to applying.
Okay. All right, bummer. Okay, so that's disappointing. I would encourage everybody to keep recruiting. So now it is that time of year for SPAC elections. Not one of you wrote and said that you wanted to be either the chair or the secretary. So I wanted to have a discussion about that because, I've done this for two years. I'm sort of at a crossroads where I need to transition out of this position. So thoughts on either anybody who would like to be nominated for chair or what we do if nobody wants the position? Jesse, do you have any thoughts? Being the former chair?
I was planning to sit here quietly.
Didn't Navarre say he was going to check with somebody? I was trying to hit up Peggy the other day to do it jointly with Christine for a while. And I'm not quite sure I can say she said yes. But I'm really wondering about the minutes long-term, if we can just, if it makes it a lot easier. Apparently we can do that via Zoom. And that would take care of the minutes. And so that's what I was trying to hit her up for, but she'd have to speak for herself. I wish I could nominate her, but not here.
We have a really good system of, it does not take a lot of time to do the agenda. She's done a fantastic job on the minutes. And, usually rolls them around pretty quickly. And then I just, need a bit of time to check them and push them out and push the agenda out. We do have a monthly meeting with Lance, which I think is really helpful and keeps everybody engaged. So I will say it doesn't take a lot of time. And I think we have a pretty good system. Christine has agreed, I believe, to stay as vice chair, but Peggy's done, the minutes for 2 years as well. So.
What about Terry? Terry, you haven't done this yet.
Well, Terry and Navarre.
It's gonna be, the fall. I can't really commit right now. I've got a senior in high school. One, which is like college deadline. So I'm not making commitments right now. So I do apologize.
I had said this to Liz. I could step up as the chair. It just seems a little strange because I'm also the chair of the NHC. I feel like there's got to be more people in Albemarle County too. chair these to sort of, that are important for stewardship of the environment. And but I can do that. I can step up and be the chair. I don't want to commit to 2 years to do it, but I would do it for the next 6 months, or I don't know.
It's an annual,
Or I could do it. I
strategy.
could do it for the next year.
Yeah, I think we have to resolve this. We definitely need more committee members. And I think that we need to focus on that. I think we're kind of back to our, our core number 8, committee members, but we got permission to grow up to 12. And I think if we had 12, I think our participation would be higher. And I think it would be much easier then to move that, the chair and minutes and things between people. So,
and
Terry,
I also think that having the ability to have these subcommittee meetings to actually make some progress would actually make it more dynamic, because right now it just, it's so hard to do anything.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like since there's an emergency order to do meetings on Zoom, there needs to be some sort of emergency authorization to allow things to keep moving forward in whatever capacity it is. So, yeah, but I think we've made that clear. I think I want to make sure that's also clear in our report to the Board of Supervisors, especially if this ends up being a long haul COVID situation. Nothing will get done if we don't have some better structure.
At the meeting with the Sierra Club and the, I guess it was the Baton School, I'm blanking now, the students, there were people, there's people in the Sierra Club that had no idea that the county even had a SWAC committee, which is kind of annoying. Maybe we're just not publicizing ourselves enough, and I don't know how to do that, but I think that might be a problem. I was surprised that some of the people that said that they had no idea, people that I have talked to before, and that we have gone, members of the SWAC have gone to the Sierra Club to give talks. Phil has done this, but Margaret and I did that. And so, and the fact that Christine and others have been going out to talk with groups surprises me. That, I mean, you're clearly telling people that you're on the SWAC, right, Christine, when you're going to these meetings.
Asking people to join.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, to most people, waste is not sexy. So
a lot of people really are interested in this.
Yeah, I would think so.
Amazing.
Well, Christine, I do not want you to have to do this by default. And, what I'm wondering is, if we go until December, is there anybody who thinks by then maybe they'd be in a position to take over? I just didn't want to be in the position of having to do this for a full year. So, and I also think it's important just to have the leadership of a committee change on a regular basis. So, but I don't want to sort of back Christine into a corner. I feel like she has to take it on.
Well, the first baby will be older.
What I'm wondering is, could we commit to everybody identify one person as a possible committee member? So within 2 months that we could potentially have some new committee members. I mean, like, really dedicate some focus to identifying people. I thought, is Amanda Nelson the professor? I thought that the UVA professor. Okay. Yeah, I think that would be terrific. If I don't have connections at Sierra Club, does somebody have connections at Sierra Club where we can, go and specifically talk to them and, see if we could get some of them. I'm really interested in getting some young people, which is this woman, Marion Carter. She's local, very environmentally minded. She's very interested. So I'm going to reach out to her again and see if I can help get her application in. So, but if everybody could commit to just identifying one person, we would be in great shape. So then, bye, Margaret. Then, you know, what I'd like to just say is maybe in the next quarter, at the end of this quarter, you know, maybe we could, I don't know if there's any rule about our election. Could we do the election at that odd time? You know, do a transition at that point? Is that okay, Liz?
Yeah, you know, you can step down at any point and say, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, it's our official time to do it, but you know, you can bail at any moment. We can't stop you. It's not against the law.
Yeah.
Well,
And I
Yes,
think and I think that, you know, you have more on your plate than I do. So I'm happy to, you know, take over in running the meetings.
And I would be happy to help you, Christine. But I also, if you're already chair of one and, you know, you're doing the outreach committee, that's a lot. So, but if you would like to take over, I would be happy to nominate you to do that. And maybe we could just bound it in time to maybe like, I mean, December. And the goal is in the interim, we need 4 more committee members by December so that we have more options for committee leadership at that time. I mean, Jesse has done it, Teddy. So Terry and Navarre, you guys are definitely on the radar screen. Okay, I think that, you know, that sounds like a good strategy. I think that the question is, and I'd be happy to serve as, you know, Christine and I could just switch. I can serve as vice chair if that works. So I'll help you do those, you know, I can show you the system and help you, you know, do that. And then in December, let's plan on identifying nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary at that point. We still don't have a secretary.
Yeah, for me, it's, I'm happy to run the meeting and, you know, helps get the agenda going. But sometimes I feel like I don't have those great connections and that you brought these just great speakers. And so,
I mean, I'm good. I'll continue to do that as people are interested. If there's a topic, you know, and I know somebody, I mean, that's not going to go away. I'm obviously still plan on participating in the committee. It's just the administration aspect of it that I'm working on a business in Asia. So I'm working till like midnight and often on calls at 7 a.m. So my life has just gotten a little crazy to do all of this.
yeah.
Is there nobody is interested in secretary? Because I know Peggy's real tired of being secretary. EJ, do you have any insights into, you know, you're going to look into whether we can basically get minutes out of the recordings? Is that my understanding correctly?
Yes, from the link that Monty put into the chat, it looks like a transcript, just a simple transcript is produced. And I don't see anything in the charter that says what form your meeting minutes must take. Nor do I see anything in the Board of Supervisors charters. Remember, everything that the board is subject to, this committee is subject to because it is a board committee. And there's nothing that I've seen, and Supervisor Price or Supervisor Palmer can correct me on this. There's nothing that I've seen that says that a straight transcript can't be used as your meeting minutes.
It can, but we might want to edit it. But let me suggest one other thing. Taking a roll call at the beginning of the meeting and making sure that we have the names of everybody that's present would help a lot with that transcript.
Well, I'll
Because
tell
that's
you
one of the
the
things
challenge with that's going to be is that the minutes inform the action items you pull forward into the agenda. So a transcript is too detailed. We just want the highlights and we want what actions we need to carry forward. So, you know what, I'm just gonna, Christine and I are gonna have a conversation using the agenda. The agenda is actually a really good template for the minutes. If you just fill in the different sections, you copy the action items. So let's see if we can come up with a system, you know, sort of based on the agenda format. So then because the minutes dump directly into the next month's agenda, and you want to make sure that we're pulling those things forward. So we will work on that. We'll email the group on you know, what we come up with, and we'll put something together between now and December. We'll also talk to Peggy. So still work to be done on this all. So, but thank you. I think we're just at time now. But good meeting today, despite, you know, continued COVID challenges. So thank you all, and take care, stay safe, and stay cool, and see you in a month.